the software that is in all of our election machines came out of Venezuela with Venezuelan software engineers working in collaboration with MIT. And that source code was in Venezuela with Smartmatic. So you have to ask yourself from an election perspective, right? These are some of the most valuable things that we do. We vote and we have people representing us. Well, if you can't verify your vote, and I may speak for a lot of people in the audience. I have a pretty deep technical background, but when you type into a computer, there's gazintas, and then what comes out of it, I don't know what happened in between. And I think most people do not have a good idea of what happens in between. And so they create an illusion. We have an illusion of a free and fair election system. And that's the illusion that these people wanted to create.
Captain Pete, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, what are your thoughts?
Well, a lot, John. I mean, it all, we touched on a lot of different elements of that. But one thing, just to kind of set the stage, is that General Hull talked about a lot of deception ops. I mentioned that all warfare is based on deception. If I mention the following word, to the audience, apocalypse, what's the first thing that comes to mind? The vast majority of people that when I ask them that question, they say, oh, it's the end of the world. They think more in line with Armageddon, if you will, the Battle of Megiddo, the final battle. But that's really not the case. If you break the word apart, it's apo and calypso. It's a conjugation of those two words. Apo meaning remove, and calypso meaning covering or veil. So a removal of the veil. And I believe that very strongly. We're going through that right now in sometimes ripping the Band-Aid off dramatic fashion. But one of President Trump's modus operandi is he exposes things and then lets people see for themselves. Mm-hmm. So if you take that and extend that a bit to say that, well, the devil's a magician, right? He's the deceiver. And with deception is, veils or coverings. And once you learn how the trick is done, the magician, the illusionist, their trick, it's no longer, so alluring, is it? Right? You see behind the shield, the screen. I think everybody's familiar with the Wizard of Oz and when the curtain was pulled back, right? But we're going through a lot of that. And these people out of the city of London are masters at magic acts. They have you look left when the real thing's happening to the right. They shield things, they cover things, they make them look pretty, when deep down on the inside there is, as the scripture says, whitewashed tombstones. They look good on the outside, but deep down there is dark and evil as evil can be. And that's been the case in a lot of the things you just mentioned, right? In Iran, that there's been a lot of dark and evil things going on that have been generated through, as General Holt said, the City of London, that they work to fund both sides of the wars. I encourage people to go find the video, All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. Look that up and watch it, maybe 45 minutes, an hour. And I think that'll be very revealing to you. And, so you have Iran on one side that has been fomenting terror to what? To divide. Look at the theme here. You have the social media, which was designed. Facebook was designed as LifeLog, right? That was done by DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. It was specifically done to collect information to build a digital model of you so that then they could manipulate you and control you with information, with ideas, and get you to, they shepherd you along in a particular way, pull you by the nose. Twitter, right? May have heard of Operation Mockingbird. Well, what was Twitter's symbol? Little bird. Mm-hmm. These things are right out in front of us if we just look. So what was going on in Venezuela, as General Holt mentioned, epicenter of election theft. Pull the string on that one. A lot of that information is about to come out. But the software that is in all of our election machines came out of Venezuela with Venezuelan software engineers working in collaboration with MIT, and that source code was in Venezuela with Smartmatic. So you have to ask yourself from an election perspective, right? These are some of the most valuable things that we do. We vote and we have people representing us. Well, if you can't verify your vote, and I may speak for a lot of people in the audience. I have a pretty deep technical background, but when you type into a computer, there's gazintas, and then what comes out of it, I don't know what happened in between. And I think most people do not have a good idea of what happens in between. And so they create an illusion. We have an illusion of a free and fair election system. And that's the illusion that these people wanted to create. So that went on in Venezuela as the center. What else was going on? Well, the Isla de Margarita, I believe it's termed. It's an island off the coast. Well, that was a training ground for IRGC and other Hezbollah and others, funneling them into the country through what? Again, General Holt mentioned it, the arteries of the cartels. You don't think they were just trafficking money and drugs and people. They were also there in force to traffic, if you will, the cells, these sleeper cells that they brought in. So they had these routes already built. So these things are all related. They're all related, and again, run out of the city of London, the epicenter.
We are at war, and we must unite in truth. Subscribe for free at johnmichaelchambers.com for my monthly communique, which includes alerts, warnings, announcements, and access to my most valuable resource network to help you to navigate this storm. With your free subscription, you will also receive a digital copy of one of my books, Trump and the Resurrection of America, an Amazon 5-star rated book and 6-star rated by the late Robert David Steele. Won't you join me as we take our country back and redirect humanity on this much-needed course correction? Remain informed, empowered, and connected, and subscribe today at johnmichaelchambers.com.